Alright. Hello, everybody. So the patch notes just came out. We're going to do a little bit of patch analysis slash first impressions. This is obviously not going to be the most professional thing in the world, but, you know, we'll figure it out. Anyway, so starting off the patch notes, Arc Warden is the first thing to really talk about. Arc Warden, if you guys haven't seen him in Dota 1, like, I'm not going to go real in-depth into most of this stuff. I'm going to keep it pretty short and quick. I don't really think that there's going to be plenty of people who really agonize over a 10 movement speed difference on a hero. I don't want to do that. So, Arc Warden, if you haven't seen this hero, that's just a whole nother topic. We're not going to go into it. Arc Warden, back in the Dota 1 days, really interesting hero. Looking forward to seeing more of him. Arcana, updates. I don't really give a shit. I don't give a shit about any of this stuff. New in 6.86, we'll talk about that. The meat is this part. So, gameplay updates. First things first, there's going to be a new rune. Arcane Rune causes all spell cooldowns to be reduced by 30% and mana cost to be reduced by 50%. Lasts for 50 seconds. Automatically, I feel like this rune lasts too long. This is a previous problem with some other runes that they just lasted too long. And a 30-second spell cooldown, which is more than Octarine Core, is pretty significant. Mana cost being reduced by 50% is also very big for certain heroes. So this is, I feel like the Arcane Rune is pretty out of control, and is a bit specialized. So, interested to see where this leads. There's going to be some heroes that will really be able to abuse this rune quite a lot. Somebody already said Nyx Rune. I mean, for example, Nyx Assassin. Spam out the mana burn for half the cost and continually, whatever. There's going to be a whole lot of scenarios like that that are just going to be kind of absurd. But it's an interesting idea. Probably needs to be scaled back, but we'll see how it goes. Creep Bounty increases by 1 gold per normal upgrade cycle. So every 7 minutes and 30 seconds just means generally as the game goes more, you get a little bit more farm. Siege damage against heroes, 75 to 85. This is the kind of stuff, like, I'm not going to agonize over a 10% increase on a Siege Wagon creep. I don't really care too much. Hero-based HP increase from 150 to 180. Congrats. Creeps now arrive slightly closer to the top Dire Tower and the bottom Radiant Tower. Okay, so making it so the safe lane... Making it so the safe lane and the safe lane for each side is a little bit more of a safe lane advantage. Interesting. Random draft, don't care. Random draft. Centaur Courser, 20% magic resistance aura. This is the small neutral from the Centaur camp. Okay, that has interesting perspectives for, like, it's maybe a decent Halberdom creep every once in a while. Oh, it's 5% for heroes. So, never mind. Not that much. Hellbear has a stacking magic resistance aura as well. This is kind of interesting because Chen, he gets the Courser, he gets the Hellbear. It's stacking as well, so you get multiple Hellbears. Maybe this gives some more viability to Chen and Enchantress. The push lineups are a little bit stronger with this stacking magic resistance aura. Kind of interesting. I think there did need some buffs to these junglers, so I think that's a good call by Val. Dragonhide aura, stackable or armor increased from 2 to 3. Armor reduced by 1 in response to that. Let's see. Add a new ability for Ancient Black Dragon, so this is a buff to the Chen Ags. So, targets an area and hurls a Fire Blast at it, igniting the 300 area of effect for 10 seconds, dealing 85 damage per second. That's a pretty significant spell. Again, a buff to the Chen, whose Ags, like, it's like guaranteed. All you wanted was the Golem. First thing first, just to increase everyone's HP. Now this gives a little bit more credence to the Black Dragon. Hill Priest Aura, so just some changes to neutrals that I don't think are all that big. Roshan, base armor increased by 1, base attack time increased from 1 to 2, and so Roshan now has an extra 100 attack speed. He still attacks at the same rate, but is affected less by negative attack speed. Okay, that's really good because there were certain things like Toss Sigil that were just too OP in the pit against Roshan. So I really like this quite a bit. It stops those slows from being so powerful. Same goes with Untouchable, stuff like that. Added a patrol command. Nice. You are now able to bring your cursor, bring up the targeting cursor. Okay, don't really care. Single target, AoE. Okay, just some UI changes and some AP changes. Nothing major. There's going to be some terrain changes. We can't really go over that just because once we see it actually laid out in the map in front of us, we're not going to try and create a visual without an actual map. So, okay. So terrain changes, I'm sure there's going to be some interesting stuff people want to talk about. We're not going to talk about it. Now, the actual heroes. Greevil's Greed, Bounty, Rune Multiplier, rescaled from 5 to 3, 4, 5, 6. So it now has scaling, so putting levels into Greevil's Greed is a lot more viable. I love this pickup because it was way too good to give 5 times the Bounty Rune in the beginning. That's just absurd. Greevil's Greed granting full gold during buyback. Okay, that's interesting. Bane, movement speed. He's a pretty fast hero still. Batrider, base HP regeneration. They gave him the Ogre Magi treatment. They're gonna majorly buff his HP regen. Seems like that's a continual thing with Ice Frog. If it's a hero that's underutilized, they're gonna try and like buff up the HP regen to buff up its lightning phase. It's an interesting idea rather than buffing the usual metrics. Instead we go for HP regen, because it used to be everyone had the kind of same general HP. Flamebank mana rescaled. It's decent, especially with all the buffs that Batrider's been getting. This definitely makes him just a little bit more viable, especially in that level 1 and 2 area. HP regen could do some work. Wild Axes no longer has unit targeting. Call of the Wild rescaled from 40. Okay, so the more you level Call of the Wilds, the better the cooldown's going to be, all the way down to 30 seconds. Pretty big buff to Beastmaster, I would say. The extra 2 seconds at level 1, not a big deal. Bloodright rescaled. Cooldown rescaled. Let's see, it's a little bit more in the beginning, 1 second more, but it's 5 seconds less later on into the game. That's good, because Bloodright was, I think, too valuable in the early levels and wasn't really valued enough later on in levels, so gives it a little bit of buff for those later levels. Janata movement speed and attack speed reduction increased from 25% to a scaling of up to 31%. Same thing goes there. Too strong at level 1, not strong enough at level 4. Obviously the level 1 is still the same, 25%. I don't think they needed to nerf Bounty Hunter in that regard, so I like this scaling. Brewmaster Drunken Haze cooldown reduced from 8, okay, just goes all the way down to 5 seconds for Drunken Haze, spammable a little bit more. Primal Splits damage, okay. Dispel Magic cooldown, Windwalk, okay, just some minor things with the ultimate, and nothing game breaking. Added Scepter to Bristleback, ooh. Nasal Goo is no longer targeted, instead it applies to goo to all enemies around you in a 600 AoE when casted. So this is going to be one of those strength ags that is actually pretty viable for the hero to get. It tanks you up a decent amount. I mean, all the stats that you get out of it are valuable in some way. Slight increase in armor from agility, some HP buffs, and even the intelligence and mana that you get is actually quite valuable on Bristleback. So it's actually a pretty viable pickup, and considering the length of some of these fights, the Nasal Goo upgrade is, I would say, a pretty decent ags. I think your Bristleback build's still generally going to be the same, because tanking up on him is too important. But the ags is an interesting idea for like a 4th or 5th item, I think. Nasal Goo mana cost reduced from 30 to 25. That's good. He had mana issues, I think. Max damage increased from 400 to 450. So a little bit more late game viability with Bristleback, I think. I'm getting a call from Vegetable Esports. Freiburg's calling the whole entire Veggies group right now. Broodmother, Spiderling's damage reduced 75 to 70, 300 to 280. Okay. The nuke was probably a little bit too powerful considering the amount of just damage that the Spiderlings themselves could do in lane, so I like the slight scale back on damage there. Return damage increased from 30 to 66 to now 30 to 75%. Again, giving Centaur a lot more late game viability. I would say that's a 9% increase. The return damage is actually pretty sizable going late game. I think they're really struggling to find a way for Centaur to actually make his way into the meta, and that's going to take more of a meta change than anything else. Because the laning phase is very tough, but he does have a lot of late game viability between the Ags upgrade he got before and now the 75% from return. I mean, these small things do rack up, as you can see from, the Slargar effect. Chaos Knight Reality Rift bonus damage increased 60 to 60, 120 to 180, so a bit more damage at level 4. Nothing major. Base strength increased from 20 to 23 on Chen. Penitence mana cost reduced from 100 to 70. Penitence duration increased from 5, 6, 7, 8 to just a raw 8. Pretty decent buffs. I would say nothing major. I think there's just more meta changes that need to happen for Chen to be viable. The neutral change were more important about this. Agility from 3 to 3.3 for Clinks, nothing major. Strength growth for Clockwork. Power cogs now spawn in a circle rather than a rectangle. I'm not sure if they meant rectangle or square, but a circle may make it harder to catch someone in the cogs. I guess we'll just have to see. Before, it was the best way to catch someone in cogs was to catch them at a diagonal angle. Oftentimes, so if you bumped up directly behind them, oftentimes you would have a hard time getting the cogs to catch them. So you would try and catch them at an angle. Now, the corner angle may not be as good, or approaching them directly from behind may be better. I'm not sure which, but we'll have to see. Crystal Nova cooldown reduced 13 to 12. Arcane Aura level mana regen increased from 2.55 to 3 and 6. So an insane amount of mana regen now. Darkseer base intelligence reduced from 27 to 25. Ion Shell is now purgeable. Ion Shell being purgeable is just a small little nerf, but it's obviously very minor. Nothing major here for Darkseer. Dazzle, Poison Touch, mana cost reduced from 100 to 70, so a lot more harassment potential if you get this at level 1 now. Because Dazzle already has a very sizable mana pool, so he can spam that out quite a bit. 70, I'd probably give him like 4 or 5 times. Shalgrave, cast point increased from 0.3 to 0.35. Mana cost increased from 140 to Shirog 150. Weave no longer provides 100 flying vision. Okay, this is something that was pretty abusable from Weave. Being able to scout out the Roshan pit or something like that. Now provides ground vision for the AoE of the ability for 3 seconds. So just the ground vision. Interesting. Dazzle's not really going anywhere, I don't think, with that kind of change. He's still going to be a viable... If defensive supports are in the meta, Dazzle's still going to be there. Death Prophet, temporarily removed from Captain's mode. Replaced Witchcraft with a new ability, Spirit Siphon. Creates a spirit link between you and the target, draining 20 plus a percentage max HP per second and slowing movement by a percentage. Lasts for 4 seconds. Cast range is 500. The buffer distance is 300. Oh, it has charges. Okay, that's why I was like, this seems kind of weird. It seems like a minor amount of damage. So the idea being behind this is that Death Prophet, I think, needed more catch, so the slow is nice. Any percentage HP damage is always going to mean that the hero is more viable late game. 3.4% max HP per second is pretty significant, and I'm guessing because it's the drain, this is Death Prophet's actually taking that HP for herself. So maybe this gives Death Prophet a way to be able to have sustain before her ultimate returns back to her, which I think is a pretty decent change. If someone wants to refute that, I'm just presuming that's what the meaning of drain is. Maybe she doesn't get HP, in which case it's kind of weird, but... Base movement increased from 280 to 310. That's a very sizable movement speed increase. You're now faster than most other heroes. It's because the Witchcraft used to give you movement speed, so they're offsetting that with an increase at the base. Crypt Swarm cooldown reduced from 8 to just 8765. Again, scaling to match with the Witchcraft takeout. Same goes with Silence cooldown. Exorcism, they increased the spirit count because Witchcraft gave you spirits. And Exorcism spawn rate decreased from 1 ghost per 0.1 second to 0.3 seconds. So it takes longer for you to spawn out ghosts? Weird. Doom temporarily removed from Captain's mode. Wait, how many heroes did they remove? Death Prophet, Doom, Faceless Void, Lone Druid, Riki, and Winter Wyvern. Holy shit. Replace Level Death with a new ability called Inferno. Why didn't they rework Doom? Oh god. Valve, you made... I'm like, oh, way to go, Valve. You removed Doom from Captain's mode. You're reworking him. And then I see they're not reworking Doom. They're reworking Level Death. Alright. Doom is just not a good ability in Dota. It's just not very fun. Inferno Blade. Passive, auto-cast ability, mini stuns for 0.3 seconds and applies a 4-second burn that deals 40 damage plus percentage-based damage at max HP as magic damage. Cooldown all the way down to 4 seconds. So 5% max HP on a 4-second cooldown with a mini stun. Okay. I mean, they keep the mini stun factor, which was kind of important for Doom to have. But, I don't know, I kind of feel like this just makes Doom, unless they really take back Scorched Earth. Let's see, base attack time increased from 1.7 to 2. Scorched Earth, damage heal reduced. See, slightly less at level 1, 5 less HP, damage, and heal at level 4. This is interesting. Really not enough. Movement speed, 16 to 14%. Doom cooldown increased from 100 to 125. Okay, that's actually pretty significant. 25% in 25-second cooldown increase to Doom helps a lot. As you can see from like a lot of the heroes that have really long cooldowns on their ultimates, despite them having very heavy impacts into team fights, they've fallen out of favor quite heavily because you need heroes that are ready to go constantly. And this was the problem with Doom, is that if you kill the hero with Doom, you would have like this maybe 30-second window most of the time where Doom was not up for you to be able to force a fight, right? He kills an ally with Doom. You wait for that ally to respawn. By the time he respawns and you've moved out with smoke, then you're not actually going to be able to, like, you have a 30-second window to force the fight while Doom is down. Obviously, it's even less going into the late game. So this helps that window a lot more. We'll still see. Obviously, items and everything else does affect a hero, so I think these changes are a little weird. I'm not sure about the Inferno Blade. Dragonite. Blood HP regen, let's see. Dragon Blood from 2 to 3 to 5 to 12. Oh my god. Dragon Blood has always been an ability that has been not looked at as the most amazing thing in the world, but at the same time, the scaling of the stun is not good enough necessarily for you to warrant leveling it up. So you're like, okay, I'll just go Dragon Blood. Armor, HP regen, it's all good. Now that HP regen, it makes the scaling of the stun seem even worse. So this is probably always going to be your second ability to max out. Whereas occasionally you would see very rarely a maxed out stun first. Elder Dragon form, Frost AoE increased from 250 to 300. Minor. Added a Scepter to Drow Ranger. Marksmanship now causes her attacks to splinter on the target and split into 2 arrows, affecting 2 random units in a 375 radius. The splintered arrows deal 50% damage each. Primary target still takes full damage. The split arrow acts as normal attacks, carrying all attack modifiers. Not a fan. Drow Ranger still has, I would say, a pretty specific builds that usually increase your basic stats or give you some sort of utility or give you tank. And getting an Aghanims is not going to be amazing for you. You're already a single target hero. I'm not seeing this as, it's one of those ags that I think is going to be kind of forgotten. Earth Spirit is now enabled in Captain's Mode. Oh boy. Intelligence growth reduced from 2.4 to 2.1. Boulder Smash stun AoE reduced from 200 to 160. That's I think that's helpful. The Boulder Smash, I think, was too much. Geomagnetic Grip can now only pull allied heroes when using Scepter. Thank God. That was one of the worst things about Earth Spirit, is that he had too much utility. And one of the things was him being able to save an allied hero in when they were certainly in Doom scenarios. He would be able to pull them out from like great range. So now that requiring an Aghanim Scepter, the Aghanim Scepter was a little bit wonky to begin with, so now that adds a little bit more viability to the Ags and sufficiently nerfing Earth Spirit early on to make sure he's not as OP as he is. Elder Titan Earth Splitter reworks. Let's see, damage rescaled from 35 to 30, 40, 50. Earth Splitter mana cost rescaled from 175 to up to 225. Earth Splitter's physical damage component is no longer reduced by damage block. So one of the things about Earth Splitter is that it's long been not an effective enough spell to warrant how hard it is to hit. Now, when the damage it's kind of interesting. I think it's going to be make Elder Titan a little bit more viable, but I'm still concerned about Earth Spirit being back in the pool. But the fact that they took away that pull, I think, is amazing. Yeah, so up to 50% max HP is damage. That hits really hard now. So it makes up for the fact that it's so hard to hit. I think that's a pretty good workaround. He obviously, IceFrog didn't want to make this ability easy to hit. Didn't want to speed up the cast time or anything, so. It's a pretty risky spell. A lot more reward out of it now, at later levels especially. Fire Remnants no longer give vision. That's great. It was, I think, a very dumb ability for you just to be able to throw inside the Roshan pit and see Rosh at all times. You can't remove it. It shouldn't give vision. Enchant cooldown reduced from 30, let's see, to... Okay, so later levels, just a slight cooldown nerf. Nothing major on Enchantress. I think she's pretty well fine. Again, just need the meta to go the way of junglers. Enigma, Eidolon movement speed increased from, let's see, 250 to 260, and then 260 to 320. So now the Eidolons are going to be almost as fast as you are with upgraded boots. Or even just regular boots, actually. That'll help out a lot when moving your Eidolons over to gank. Because you usually do level them up. Malefice damage increased from, let's see, 25... 30, 70 to 90. Malefice does some pretty decent damage. Let's see. Enigma Dota 2. Let's see. So Malefice right now, 3 instances of 70 damage. And a 3-second stun in total, so 240 damage and 3-second stun. I think that ability was, I think it was pretty decent as it was, because they split up the 1-second stuns. It's much better to have, in my opinion, a 1-second stun split up over time than have just a 3-second stun overall, in many scenarios. So I thought the ability was fine as it was, but now increased to 270 damage. It's a nice little bump. Black Hole cooldown reduced 200, 200, 180, 160. So the more levels you put in Black Hole, the less cooldown there is. That was important because oftentimes Black Hole wouldn't be leveled at all because there wasn't much value in it before. Because it was only a 10-second change per level. Very minor. Didn't mean much. But now there's a 40-second difference between level 1 and level 2. And we talked about how heroes are being kind of zoned out of the meta if they have too long of cooldowns. Faceless Void, temporarily removed from Captain's Mode because they replace Backtrack with a new ability called Time Dilation. Time Dilation applies a debuff to all nearby enemies and a 650 AoE for 6 to 9 seconds. Causes time to be frozen on all enemy abilities, causing their cooldowns to make no progress while they have this debuff. Slows down enemy movement and attack speed by 4 to 10% for each locked ability. So this specifically is more effective the more abilities are on cooldown. Right? It's an interesting concept. It makes Faceless Void more powerful as a counter initiator, entering into the team fight like after things are used, and essentially preventing any response. Up to 9 seconds is pretty absurd for heroes that are more reliant on a low cooldown. For example, Bristleback. Bristleback is what, a 4-second cooldown on Quill Spray? Is it 4 or maybe it's 3? I don't think it's 4. It sounds too much. Yeah, 3-second cooldown. So, you know, add on another 6 to 9 seconds. That's pretty absurd. Really screws the hero. And there's going to be a couple of heroes like that, but Bristleback is going to be probably like one of the most notable ones that are just really screwed over by an ability like this mid-team fight. I like the fact that they just got rid of Backtrack. I think it was a crappy ability. It did give him a lot of his survivability, though. And I'm not sure if they're making up for that at all. Time Walk no longer slows units. Time Walk now undoes any damage taken in the last 2 seconds. Excuse me. Okay. Time Walk cooldown rescaled. 19, 24, 13 to 6. Okay, they're really trying to get you to max out Time Walk. Mana cost reduced to 40 seconds. So what, are you just going to be like a mini Weaver? Zip-zapping your way around, undoing damage. Time Walk reduced. Range reduced. 700 to just 550, so they're trying to make it more of a spammable ability. So you're just void walking around. Okay, this is kind of weird. Time Walk cast points reduced from 0.35 to 0.2. So again, trying to increase the speed at which you're zip-zapping around. This feels really weird. It's still, if you catch a void though, you're so much more likely just to be able to like nuke it down. But you're going to be punished much more heavily if you aren't successful. Because now one Time Walk He can undo all the damage, and then he punishes you like a normal Void does, except even more so, because then he's got time dilation, he throws that out, he gets you with the Chronosphere, obviously, etc., etc. So this is really going to punish you if you can't successfully kill a Faceless Void, but he is a lot easier to kill now. Less RNG focused, I like this change. I like the idea behind the change. No idea on the implementation. It sounds a bit broken, but this is just going to be something that it's either going to, I mean, I say buffed or nerfed according to what happens, but it probably just needs to be nerfed. I can't see how that's going to be a very fair ability with a 6-second cooldown. We'll see. Cooldowns, first missile damage reduced from 250 to 220. So a little less damage. Calldown has long been one of the abilities that's kind of been questionable, I think, about Gyrocopter. So they might need to nerf it maybe a little more. Berserker's Blood bonuses are provided linearly from full until 10% rather than stepwise at 7% increments. Linear movement, I think, in general, I think more things just need to be linear. I like the Razor change that we had before. Berserker's Blood maximum magic resistance reduced from 42 up to 84% to now just 50%. Oh my god. Okay. I guess bye-bye Huskar. I'm sure there's combinations that are still going to make Huskar incredibly broken, Oracle, Dazzle, etc. But Huskar by himself is no longer going to be nearly the same kind of threat he was. That's nice. Invoker now starts with Invoke level 1 at the beginning of the game. Invoke now has a standard 6, 11, 16 leveling. And level 25 Invoker, since he is now missing an ability level, has an attribute bonus ability that grants 6 to all stats. Okay. I'm not really an Invoker player, so I'm trying to wrap my head around perhaps some of the combos that are influenced by this. Because they don't really say, like, how much the levels, 6, 11, and 16, like what the cooldown reduced is and stuff like that. I guess we'll just have to see. Jakiro, base damage increased by 7. Oh boy, even stronger at level 1 than he was before. Chakra Magic cooldown reduced, cooldown reduction increased 2 to 3, 5 to 6. The whole cooldown reduction is an interesting idea that's really powerful with certain heroes, one of them being Phantom Lancer, another Bristleback. The more you're going to increase this reduction, the more heroes that are going to be able to like get some sort of broken combo off. Chakra Magic buff duration increased from 12 to 15 seconds. Now restores and increases mana capacity. Okay, so that's kind of interesting, increasing mana capacity rather than just giving you mana. Added Scepter to Kunkka. Ghost Ship now drags enemies within a 200 AoE of it towards the crash site. It now starts from where you are rather than behind you, lands in the same position as it normally would have. Enemies are still able to perform actions while being pulled by the Ghost Ship. So, sort of, yeah, I was about to say, it's not quite vacuum, but it's more like Gus. Okay, so this means it takes a lot less time for the Ghost Ship because it just spawns on you rather than much behind you. This is actually a pretty decent Ags upgrade to like the support Kunkkas that we've seen before. The like core Kunkkas where you run around X-marting your spot and blinking in and trying to one-shot people with, you know, Lucky Daedalus proc or something like that. Probably is not going to be in your build. But the support Kunkas that we've seen in the past, maybe. Torrent now gives your team vision over the target area immediately upon cast rather than just triggering. Tidebringer is now an auto-cast ability, which will only trigger if turned on. Good, because Tidebringer, one of the problems leveling Kunkka as a core and having him farm was that he wanted Tidebringer, but he would push the wave really bad. That helps. Tidebringer damage bonus increase 20 to 25, 65 to 70. Tidebringer AoE rescaled from 500, 450, 600, 600. Ghost Ship mana cost reduced 150 to 125, 250 to 225. So the Tidebringer again is going to be a small buff to like the core Kunkkas, but doesn't mean much. Actually, the best thing is probably going to be obviously the Ags for support Kunkkas or like some sort of off-lane utility Kunkkas, but the Torrent vision is very nice. I actually like that. Legion Commander, Moment of Courage, cooldown reduced 2.7, 2.6, 0.9, 0.8, nothing major. Legion Commander's Scepter now makes you and your target immune to all damage unless the source is between the duel participates. Okay, finally we have an Ags that's actually viable on Legion Commander, besides the one time that Aghanims was viable in a competitive game for Legion Commander, which was NIP versus EG? MLG, I think. Legion Commander's Scepter duration is now 4.75 to 6.25. So instead of making it go infinite, now just having straight damage. This Ags increase is, this Ags upgrade is going to be really nice for Legion Commander. There's a lot of capabilities. A Legion Commander is fits under this role called anti-carry that I think I've just kind of made up. But there are a number of anti-carries in Dota 2. One of the most notable ones being Broodmother with her passive that makes you miss and the way she just latches onto you with Lifesteal. Legion Commander is another, in a way, anti-carry, especially with this Ags Duel upgrade where you just lock down a hero. Will this make Legion Commander more of a core in any way? Are we going to see one position Legion Commanders or anything like that? I don't think so. The Ags is probably still like a 3-4 pickup. Yeah, Razor is a great anti-carry. I just never hear people use that word. Lifestealer, Rage attack speed increased from 30, 50, 80, 80. Stronger Rage at level 1. Feast damage and lifesteal increased from 4% to 4.5, 7% to 7.5. Infest cooldown reduced from 100 to now 50. Infest in general, with the whole Ags thing, has been really weird. Lifestealer's meta is, I think, very different from what we've had in the past year or so. And Lifestealer's just going to have, I think, a special place. Time to come. I don't think they really needed major buffs. That's fine. Lion, Earthspike mana cost reduced 100, 100, 170, 160. Earthspike duration increased 1.02 to 1.1, 2.6. Okay. Mana drain. Even a buff to mana drain. None of that really matters too much. Lone Druid temporarily removed from Captain's Mode. Replace Synergy with a new ability for Lone Druid Savage Roar. Causes enemies in a 325 AoE around you or your bear to run away with 20% movement speed bonus for 1.2 to 2.4 seconds towards their fountain. Okay, not just run away from you, but run towards their fountain. A cooldown of 16 seconds. At max levels, mana cost 50. The cooldown is shared with your hero, so it's going to make ganking the bear a little bit more difficult. Let's see how they balance synergy, though. Because they're going to need to buff some other things, right? Spirit Bear, attack damage increased 33 up to now 65. Spirit Bear, movement speed increased from 320 to 350. Rapid duration, 10, 18 to 30. So you may actually see more earlier levels of Rabid now with this Savage Roar ordeal. This also makes like certain potential, because they have a 20% movement speed and stuff. This may offer you more ratting potential in a way, because if some sort of melee carry goes to stop your boar push, your bear push, and he just roars you, and for 2.4 seconds you run back to your fountain, and he just gives 3 seconds to be able to just hit the tower longer. Weird ability. True form. 250 all the way up to 900. Okay. I'm not that familiar with Lone Druid to see what the losses are of synergy and how they made up for it with these buffs, but it feels like this is just an added bit of utility. It makes Lone Druid stronger, in my opinion. It's gonna be some weird things happening with that call. You could just tell. Turn rate increase 0.4. Beam interval reduced from 0.6 to 0.3. That was... I don't know. We'll see if we ever get Luna Aghanim Scepters. Lycan Wolves and Shapeshift no longer grant Critical Strike, but Lycan Wolves now gain Cripple at level 2, granting a 20% chance to cripple the target, causing it to take 8 damage per second and lose 40 attack speed for 4 seconds. So it doesn't slow movement speed, but it does slow your attack speed and forces you to take damage over time, making the wolves better harassers early on. Especially against cores, because lowering the attack speed. If it was lowering movement speed, it would just be like, oh, supports are fucked versus wolves. It's kind of interesting. I don't think Lycan should be as powerful against supports as he is, with just the wolves. Shapeshift now grants all units under your control a 40% chance for a 1.4 to 1.8% critical strike. Okay, so it still gives you the crit strike. Just make Shapeshift and the timing around Shapeshift more important, potentially, than it was before. Using Shapeshift for wolves to be able to take you down. I'm interested to see how well this affects your jungling capabilities. As Lycan, it probably slows you down. The critical's got to be more effective than the 8 damage per second. But we'll see. Aghanim Scepter Magnus changes Empowered to be an allied hero aura. Affects range heroes for half values and causes them to deal splash damage around the target in a 200 AoE. That's very minor AoE, but a ranged splash is still something. Can still be cast on units, but does not stack. Skewer distance increase 750 to 1200, now 900 to 1200. That's the Pudge buff, making the level 1 ability a lot stronger. Not that much, but... Skewer slow reduced from 40% to... Oh, now it scales. 25% only. Skewer slow duration increased from 2.5 to now it's still 2.5, but it goes up to 3.25 seconds. So it's stronger at maxed out levels. Skewer was actually a pretty... has pretty bad scaling in many ways. So oftentimes you'd be like level 2 or something. More opportunities with dumb level 1 skewer plays on cliffs and shit like that, but whatever. Medusa, Mystic Snake no longer increases Mana Steal per jump, but it does increase the damage still. Mystic Snake Mana Steal is now 11 to 20% of total mana, making Medusa much more viable late game, which is what she's always been made about, but she hasn't been strong enough in late game to do that. So 20% of total mana gets her a lot more survivability when she does cast that Mystic Snake late game, because obviously she's so dependent on Mana Shield. Double damage no longer affects all Meepo units. Good. Fuck you, Meepo. Attack range increased from 600 to 630. Starstorm radius increased from 625 to 650. Sacred Arrow now instantly kills the first unit it hits if it is a non-ancient creep. It's interesting. I wonder if there's going to be any farming capabilities hitting the hard camp creep with an arrow. Just for easy farming. Obviously, that's not going to be a major strategy. Just opens up certain possibilities. Mirana needs more farming capabilities. The Starstorm radius increase isn't anything. The attack range increase is something, I guess. We'll see if, like, the roaming Mirana is able to make use of the arrow better somehow. I don't know. Adaptive Strike base damage increased 50 to 80 to now just 100. Mana cost reduced from 100 to now scales down to 70. Morph rate increased from 2 to 10 to now 2 to 16. Oh my god! Morph now shifts in intervals of 1 rather than 2. Okay, it just makes it smoother. Hybrid cooldown reduced from 140 to 120. Good lord! 16 rate per second? Oh, that's gonna make ganking Morphlings real shit. Wow. They're just gonna get real tanky real quick if they have maxed out Morph. Naga Siren, base intelligence increased from 18 plus 1.2 to now 21 plus 2. Naga Siren already has Octarine Core to make up for some mana issues that you may have had in the past. This will obviously make up for early mana issues, with just like a 3 buff in the beginning. Not sure if Naga Siren really needs it. Again, Naga Siren is just more about the meta change than anything else. Same kind of goes for Morphling. Like, Morphling just doesn't farm fast enough to be... Like, Naga Siren's, in a way, the opposite, where she needs a set amount of farming time, but she farms rather quickly when she gets that point. Morphling just doesn't farm fast enough to be a viable carry right now. So, they don't give him any sort of extra farming capabilities, but, again, that can change with just the meta going in a different way. If it goes a slower, more slower pace meta, then that's going to favor certain carries like Morphling, who don't farm very efficiently. Nature's Prophet, base damage increased by 4, treant damage increased from 28 to 32. Oh, okay, Nature's Prophet does a decent amount more damage. Level 1, he becomes a lot harder to deal with those treants just kind of running at you. I mean, that's 4 damage per treant, 4 treants running at you. I really think the Ags upgrade was good enough for Nature's Prophet, but... Base armor increased by 1. I'm seeing a lot of buffs, not many nerfs. Void Slow at night reduced from 4 to now 2.5 up to 4. Okay. Nyx Assassin duration 1.27 to 1.6, 2.77 to 2.8. So making the level 1 Impale a lot stronger. It was a really shitty stun at level 1. Spike Carapace cooldown reduced from 23 to 22, 14 to 10. So Spike Carapace is now potentially usable in twice in a team fight, rather than just kind of like once, oftentimes. 4-second buff to that is decent enough. Oh, look at that! Ogre Magi getting more of the Ogre Magi treatment. Base health regen increased from 2.5 to 3.5. Ice Frog really wants to make this hero work with HP regen. Oracle is now enabled in Captain's mode. Yes. Fate's Edict cooldown rescaled from 12, let's see, to now 16 down to 7. I gotta look at some of the damage values to see how much this is going to affect some of the other abilities. Let's see. Fate's Edict rescaled, so it goes down to 7 seconds. It's a 6-second duration, so you can almost have a hero disarmed permanently in certain situations. That's a... Let's see. Duration, let's see, 3... Okay, so the downtime before was 6 seconds at max level. Now the downtime is 2.5 seconds. Still a big buff to Fate's Edict. With it up to 4.5 seconds... What's the... Did they change Purifying Flames? They didn't, right? So that's 2.25 seconds. Yeah, you can't get... You can't get... So part of the problem... What happened was when you were leveling Fate's Edict, when you got to like level 3, it ensured you would always be able to get 2 levels of Purifying Flames with 1 Fate's Edict. So you would make someone invulnerable to magic for a certain period of time, and you'd be able to Purifying Flames them twice, which is really efficient use of the mana. Now, with this change up, it's not possible. Even at 4.5 seconds, because you have an animation for Purifying Flames, it's not possible for you to ever get 2 Purifying Flames within one's Fate's Edict. This will hurt its mana efficiency a lot. Fate's Edict cast range rescaled from 700 to now 500 up to 800. Fortune's End mana cost reduced. Fortune's End is a really strong level 1 ability because of the ensnare duration that it has. Can now target allies. This does not root or hurt the ally, but purges and applies the effect in an area. Okay, that's a pretty interesting idea, having a applicable purge. False Promise no longer continuously dispels after the initial cast. It previously, it continually removed debuffs. It was really obnoxious in that way. I think it was very OP. But now it just does it once at the initial cast. The duration has been increased up to 9 seconds, 1 second across the board. False Promise cooldown rescaled 80, 40, 90, 30. False Promise mana cost reduced from 200 to 100. Okay, so making up for a little bit of the loss of the mana efficiency with this buff, I think this is really nice because the continual dispel was, in my opinion, very OP, but they made up for that in giving Fortune's End the ability to purge your ally. So I like this. I think this makes Oracle a really high skill cap support hero that has a lot of different defensive mechanisms to him and is still, I think, going to be pretty strong. In fact, I'm going to say very strong because they didn't touch one of his best abilities, Purifying Flames. And that still does an insane amount of damage. Outworld Devourer. Astral Imprisonment has been reworked. Now deals damage to enemies in an area around the target when it ends. The target itself will also take damage if it is an enemy. Deals 75 to 300 magic damage. Affects a 400 area. Okay, no longer steals intelligence. And can now be targeted by creeps. Please tell me they changed the cooldown. Rescaled from 18, 20, 12. Oh my god, they made it less cooldown. Good lord. Astral Imprisonment cast range rescaled 500. Now goes up to 600. Astral Imprisonment duration increased. Now it's just 4 seconds across the board. I guess that makes up for the whole stealing intelligence mechanic. Was obviously very key in being able to win mid matchups. So they offset that with a lot more utility factor in this whole Astral Imprisonment 4 off the bat. Essence Aura reduced from 1000 to a standard 900. Arcane Orb now steals. There's where the intelligence comes in. 0 to 3 intelligence per hit for 40 seconds. Oh my god. Okay. Outworld Devourer intelligence growth reduced from 3.3 to 2.7. I mean, you're probably going to have to do that if you give him an Arcane Orb that steals 3 intelligence per hit for 40 seconds. So obviously this makes attack speed really important for Outward Devourer. He's going to be an intelligence version of Slark where the longer the fight goes, the more damage he's going to be racking up over time. And just like Slark, Attack Seed's going to be a critical process of that. The idea of giving him a nuke, 300 damage, straight up a nuke, makes OD more viable in the early game and more powerful in the late game. I'm not sure, like, this, the Aghanim Scepter is kind of weird, though, because the Aghanim Scepter, it was specifically really good because you would steal a buttload of intelligence, and if you had Refresher, double drop that shit. The second intelligence ult would do an insane amount of damage, right? But now you don't steal that intelligence, and the blast that's going to come out only hits a unit once, so you're not affected by multiple of these 300 damage AoE books. Feels like a nerf to the Ags. Which was, again, like, OD wasn't a great hero to begin with anyway. So, potentially stronger early game, less one-on-one potential, I would say, in the mid lane matchup, because you can't just, like, spam out Astral Imprisonments. You have to actually level up your Arcane Orb instead of going for your nuke, if you want to be able to have the intelligence matchup, right? So you have to go 3 levels of Arcane Orb by level 5 and harass the enemy with that repeatedly in order to have the same kind of effect that you did before, where you were just racking up damage constantly. And that's going to play a toll on your mana, etc. So this makes him probably less of a 1v1 dominator, makes him stronger in, like, killing potential by giving him a nuke early on. Gives him more utility with this 4-second at level 1 as well. At the same time, it does make him stronger in 1v1 matchups in a certain utility-focused way, where he's taking a hero out of the 1v1 matchup for 4 seconds and missing, so you're missing CS. I'm sure this intelligence stealing aspect was more important, but that's going to be really obnoxious. It's just like, level 1, he's like, 4 seconds. Oh, it takes 75 damage too. 4 seconds. You missed 2 CS. Missed 2 CS. I'm not sure if this makes, like, support OD viable. Not convinced. Phantom Assassin, base intelligence increased. Not a big deal. Phoenix, turn rate increased. Okay, that's really nice. Some heroes were too fast for you to turn and catch him with the Sunray, so an increase in turn is nice. Supernova damage per second increased 60 up to now 120. So this makes the late game Supernova more viable. This is the biggest issue, is that you couldn't level up Supernova the hits too much. So you needed to buff the damage in order to make Supernova more powerful late game, because it was kind of crap. An extra 20 damage per second. It's a small buff. Puck! Let's make Puck a hero, guys. Illusory Orb. Mana cost reduced from 150 to now 80 at level 1. Up to 140, so straight buff all across the board. Illusory Orb cooldown increased to a scaling from 11. Now it's 14 seconds at level 1. That's fine for Puck. I mean, we're just seeing buffs. He doesn't really care about the level 1 loss of 3 seconds of a cooldown. That's not a big deal. Waning Rift's cooldown reduced from 16 to now a scaling down to 13 seconds. Waning Rift no longer only silences heroes. So what, you silence Necronomicon units so they can't mana drain you? You can't use certain neutral abilities? I mean, this adds the spamming potential for Illusory Orb. I see some of you guys saying the offlane Puck. Well, the cooldown, if you're going to talk about the mid matchup for Puck, it's a buff. But if you're going to talk about offlane, you do need to consider that cooldown increase at level 1. Because if you think about it, if that's your escape mechanism and your escape mechanism is taking an increase in cooldown, that does hurt a lot of your potential offlane position. So if you're considering, running offlane Puck again, that is going to be a bit of a nerf to you. But the mana cost is really helpful. Reworked Scepter on Pudge reduces cooldown of Meat Hook to 4 seconds and increases damage. Holy shit. So it no longer gives you the percentage-based damage, but they gave it to him anyway. Dismember, damage now from 75 to 175 to 60, 120, but it does a certain percentage of his strength. That's a buff across the board in my head. Oh my god. More hook? I mean, that's a 475 damage, pure damage nuke of 4 seconds? I mean, he hooks you, he dismembers you, he immediately hooks you again. And then he's just going to run you down with Rot and hook you again. He's going to do almost 1500 damage of just pure damage. Dismember now heals you for the damage it does. I mean, this only makes him stronger in the late game. Because he's not as reliant on the Ags. He has more utility in the late game when he does have that Aghanim Scepter. He has way more nuking potential with the Aghanim Scepter now. I mean, pure damage is extremely powerful. This is a great buff to Pudge. Congrats, Pudge players. Go Dendi. Maybe Navi is back. No. Decrepify no longer slows allies. Alright. There's been a lot of buffs by IceFrog to the Pugna, making him more of a support hero. If you guys have been paying attention to the way that its ultimate now works, and it can work for allies, you've seen the way that people have utilized that ultimate because it has such a big range to sit Pugna way in the back while you have someone in the front hitting on a tier 3 tower. Now when you give Decrepify, it doesn't slow you down, this makes it just more buffs to the support Pugna, the utility of the core Pugna as well. Queen of Pain, Scream of Pain damage reduced, 80 to 75, 300 to 300. Okay. Sonic Wave travel speed reduced from 1100 to 900. Sonic Wave was pretty powerful. I don't think he wanted to change the AoE in any way. So the travel speed is probably the best way to nerf that. So it feels more like a wave than just an instant wave nuke, which is kind of what it felt like sometimes. Slight buff to Puck. You can phase shift it better. Due to hero redesigns taken out of Patents mode. Oh my god. Reworked permanent invisibility to include backstab. So Riki now grants 0.4 to 1 damage when attacking from behind, as opposed to the 1.25 or 1.5 that he had before. When it was just strictly backstab. Invisibility fade time 6 to 3 seconds at max level. No longer grants the HP regen. Okay. Blink Strike, back to a basic ability without charges. 20 to 80 damage. The important thing is it keeps its 4-second cooldown that he used to have. That's the thing that makes Riki really powerful, is he continually gets these free backstab hits on you, even when you're trying to fight him, because he has Blink Strike. Added new ultimate for Riki, Tricks of the Trade. Phases out of the world for up to 3 to 5 seconds, attacking every enemy from behind it in 450 area around him. So what is he, sleight of fisting? He attacks once when facing out, and then once per second while being phased out. Can be cancelled at any time. 70-second cooldown, 90 to 70-second cooldown, 75 mana cost. The mana cost is not that high. Riki does have a limited mana pool considering how much he needs the Blink Strike. He uses Smoke. So they kept it pretty cheap for him to use. A decent cooldown. Phases out of the world for up to 3 to 4 seconds. So he hits it once at the 0 marker, and then he hits it 1, 2, 3. So he hits you 4 times at level 1, everyone within the 450 AoE around him. This feels really powerful when you're able to get the right kind of smoke opportunities, because they're not going to be able to do much. If you get multiple heroes in a smoke and you're just able to keep them slowed down, you can do that. Add some AoE opportunities, I guess, in a way. AoE opportunities for Riki. Riki is, this is like his one sort of, in a way, team fight ability, where before he's purely like single target focused, and that's, they really tried to buff that with the whole, like, I think in a way, HP regen, but also the attack, the backstab damage being so much. But now they're going to dial that back and try and make him a little bit less of such a one-dimensional hero and make him a little bit more spread. So this does make him less strong for 1v1 fights, I think. Especially since in his, like, 1v1 potential, like, he would just go around, like, hunting heroes in a way. And this is a pretty significant, 90 seconds level 1 is pretty significant. So you can't always rely on this ultimate to use. Does give him some team fight. But I'm not including Cloud as a team fight ability, mostly because it's, I mean, the AoE is not so significant that it's going to be able to consistently catch out multiple heroes. Strength growth reduced, 2.1 to 1.6. Agility growth reduced from 2.9 to 2.2. Base armor reduced by 1. So again, they're like dialing back his like insane amount of damage he would be granted. Smokescreen no longer slows turn rates. Ooh, that was a pretty important part of him, because what you would do as a Riki is you would slow them down in the Cloud, and then you would start attacking them from behind or whatever. They would turn to fight you, oftentimes, and then you would blink to blink strike, and you would get behind them again. So then they'd have to slowly turn again. And that would get you a lot of backstab damage, free backstab damage. They wouldn't be able to address you as easily. This really helps out supports against Riki, because one of the big things is you're not going to have a BKB, and maybe you don't have your Force Staff or Ghost Scepter yet, so you're not able to get out of the smoke. He's just going to kill you in the smoke if you try and run away. So you would just turn and try and prolong your life by turning and fighting him, so he doesn't get the free backstab damage. And this really helps out supports a lot by making sure that you don't have this incredibly long turn rate. Makes Riki, again, not as good as picking off heroes like he used to be, so... Again, it seems like they're trying to make Riki more of a balance. I'm not sure if that's really the way to play around him. I think Riki was kind of like one of those very specific type heroes you just very rarely see, but because he was so focused on one thing. Fate Bolt attack damage increased 14, 20. Rubik's still a hero. What do you know? Slight buff, whatever. Doesn't mean much. Rework Scepter on Sand King. Good. Aghanim Scepter was garbage on this hero. Doubles Burrow Strike cast range and applies Caustic Finale poison to heroes. No longer grants previous Scepter bonuses. Okay, this was pretty nice. The Aghanim Scepter was a potential pickup when you don't... when you're able to get it early enough so you have a much lower cooldown. But for the most part, I really don't think the Aghanim Scepter was nice. The Aghanim's now doubling the Burrow Strike and then applying Caustic Finale is interesting, especially with the change that Caustic Finale has gotten. I like this. I think I like this. Base strength increased 18 to 21. The Caustic Finale slow increased from 25% to 30%. So this essentially gives the opportunity. I'm not sure if you're ever going to see Blink Dagger foregone for Aghanim Scepter. I don't think it's that good. I think Blink Dagger still just has, in conjunction with the Burrow Strike, just too much range for you to say no to. But, I don't know. Maybe someone will try it. Maybe they'll show me wrong. Ags first, Sand King. Well. But Blink Dagger Ags, I think that's still probably a great build. Disruption Illusions duration from 5 to now 5 to 6, 8 to 12. So the Disruption Illusions now last a really long time at max level. A lot more sieging opportunities for Shadow Demon using those Disruption Illusions. Before, they were just focused on dealing damage to the hero that you were going on. That's about it, because they wouldn't last long enough. 12 seconds is now long enough to actually use those illusions for something. Added Scepter to Shadow Fiend. Did you need one? Requiem of Souls waves now return back to the SF, dealing 40% damage on the way back. All of the damage the Requiem does to heroes on its way back heals you. Base armor reduced by 1. Shadow Ray's mana cost increased from 75 to 90. Okay, so the Shadow Ray's damage is still very significant, so I thought that was actually going to be what was nerfed, but instead they did it with his mana pool. I mean, I don't think Shadow Fiend needs an Ags. I'm not sure why we gave that to him. That doesn't make much sense to me, but whatever. SF is always going to be a hero, it feels like, unless they really nerf the damage of Shadow Races. Whatever. Shadow Shaman. Shackles total damage increased from 120 to 120 to 300 to 360. They're really trying to make that give you value in maxing out Shackles, and it's really showing. And in a lot of these offlane situations, the amount of damage that Shackles does is beginning to show. You're seeing a lot more Shadow Shamans not go for the levels of Hex and much prefer going for Shackles. Mass Serpent wards require 2 hits to destroy, while they previously had HP. That's pretty good. It's going to be a buff for the most part. Shadow Shaman wards had the biggest issue going late game, where they were just one-shot by certain ranged heroes. Even some supports could get up enough damage to one-shot wards. So, making it a 2-hit system is very much like the Tombstone change-up, where it potentially makes it weaker very early on, but it definitely makes it stronger later. I think that's good. Replace Curse of the Silent with a new ability called Arcane Curse. Targets an area, causes enemies to take damage over time. Anytime they cast a spell, the duration of the debuff is increased. If an enemy is affected by this debuff, if an enemy is affected by this debuff is silenced, the debuff will pause, no damage, and no time elapses. Okay, duration 7 seconds, sacking duration 4 seconds. Anytime a spell is cast, this is it. Okay, I mean, I don't know why, but I keep on seeing these abilities, and I'm just like, oh, Bristleback is really fucked up by this. So you're telling me for 7 seconds, this is going to last, dealing him damage. And it's also... Okay. Like, every single time he casts a Quills, like, he could literally just spam out Quills and never lose Arcane Curse. 3-second cooldown, and you're saying every single time you use this 3-second cooldown, it could go increase for 4 seconds. Bristleback could literally just be like, he could just kill himself spamming Bristle. Quills, rather. And this makes Curse of the Silent, it makes Arcane Curse a lot more viable than Curse of the Silent was. A lot more viable. Let's see. Down to 12 seconds, 420. Okay. Glaives of Wisdom is no longer a unique attack modifier. You kind of expected that. Blade Mail? I mean, that is a really funny way just to deal with Silencer. Hey, Blade Mail! Yeah. The thing is that it's not like it amplifies the damage or anything like that. You'll just keep it going, and Blade Mail only lasts so long. Glaives of Wisdom is no longer a unique attack. Oh, yeah, I read that. Concussive Shot, mana cost reduced 110 to 95. Whatever. Skywrath Mage is perfectly viable support. Nothing needs to change about him. Amplified, if anything, he may need to get nerfed in the future. Amplified damage now reveals only the target rather than the area around it. This was something that was separated from track that made it, like, it was pretty obvious amplify damage was 10 times more valuable than track if you keep an AoE vision around the hero. So they dumbed that down. I thought they needed to take. I think they needed to nerf amplify damage by like 1 armor at level 6, 2 armor at level 11, etc. But apparently not. This is still a significant nerf, just like the track was. Slardr's still a great hero though. Electric Vortex mana cost reduced 100 from 130 to now just 85. I'm sure Blitz is happy, but not really satisfied. I don't think this changes Storm Spirit too much. It was the ultimate change that really hurt his potential of zipping around. Sven, base damage increased by 4. God Strength, Scepter, Aura, okay, so I've like theoretically the Aghanim's upgrade is potentially like really valuable on like support Svens. It's just support Sven is garbage to begin with, so it's hard to kind of make that work when your mana pool is so limited and your stun costs so much. But you know, they buff it enough. Who knows? We maybe see it. Or the carry Svens who have like an SF in the mid lane or something like that. Maybe in Aghanim's it's a situational 5th item or something. Refraction is now always visible. Good, good. Enabled Terrorblade in Captain's mode. I was watching Reflection not so long ago. It seems still, I think, a very powerful ability. It's extremely good in team fights, but I think Terrorblade overall seems somewhat balanced. He's just a weird hero to balance. Added Scepter to Tidehunter. Causes Gush to become a grounded target wave ability that travels for 1800 range. The AoE is 240 still. The projectile speed is 500, 7-second cooldown. So you can potentially hit multiple people with Gush. It doesn't increase the damage, but it does add you potentially more utility. Because ideally, like when you're getting an Aghanim Scepter, I don't think it's going to be so valuable that you get it over like Refresher or even like Shiva's or something like that. So when you do get the Aghanim Scepter, which is going to be relatively late game, it's going to be more about the minus armor than it's necessarily going to be about the damage. But I mean, the 1800 range is pretty insane. Like, there's some sniping potential there. I think an Ag's upgrade to Tidehunter is warranted. He's a hero that lacks some late game options for his item progression, I would say. Despite, he's obviously amazing late game. But this does give him a little bit more progression, I guess. Anchor Smash cast time reduce 0.5 to 0.4. Ravage stun duration rescaled. Let's see. Oh, okay. Who the fuck cares? Whirling Death. Timbersaw. Whirling Death debuff duration increased from 7 to 11. Whirling Death mana cost decreased to just a flat 70. And reactive armor duration rescaled from 16 to 14 to 20. Okay, I think Timbersaw is, again, in a pretty good place. He doesn't need to be buffed. I would say he didn't need to be buffed, so this feels unnecessary, but okay. As a Timbersaw player, I'll take it. I'll take it all day. Tinker. Laser cast time improved from 0.53 to 0.4. Laser cast range increased from 550 to 650. Let's see, what's the... Sorry, what's the... I'm thinking about this whole, this Whirling Death change. What's the cooldown on Whirling Death? 6 seconds. So, yeah, and I mean, it applies the duration for almost twice the cooldown. Like the duration almost twice the downtime of the ability. It's pretty insane. Craggy Exterior now triggers on attacks landing rather than on start. The thing is, I don't... never mind. Craggy exterior triggers on attacks landing rather than on start. Good! This is such a dumb thing for Craggy exterior. Why the hell would I get stunned without even attacking the hero? Ugh. What a frustrating part of Dota that's been removed. Thank you, Ice Frog. Treant Protector. Leech Seed mana cost reduced from 100 to 80, 130 to 125. Buff to level 1 Leech Seed. Pretty nice. Overgrowth AoE increased from 675 to 800. Overgrowth lacked, I think, a certain amount of effectiveness because of its poor AoE and the need for Treant Protector to be in the middle of a fight in order for it to catch multiple people. So this will definitely help out the 125 AoE increase. But I think the whole overgrowth aspect was already offset by the fact that the Aghanims upgrade made up for that fact. Scepter overgrowth damage and vision AoE reduced from 700 to 800. Increase, sorry. Nothing major, just more harassment potential and more capability with that ultimate. This is going to be a nice buff to Treant Protectors. But the strength of the hero was still there. And it's going to be in that Ags upgrade. Fervor reduced 20, 15, 30. Fervor max stacks, though, increased from 4 to 6. So this now means that before you were able to go up to... before you were up to 120 extra attack speed, now you're able to go up to 180. So a lot. He's going to be much more powerful when it comes to pushing down towers or focusing down one hero with that big potential increase of attack speed. Range whirling axes, cooldown reduced 20 to 20, 17 to 14. I'm sorry, you're right. 140 to 180, my bad. I was misreading the number. So 140 to 180, it's still going to be a pretty significant buff to him pushing down like towers if you give him space, or when he's 1v1ing a hero. Just takes a little bit longer to build up, so his harassment potential with that, when he only hits you like 2 or 3 times, is not going to be as good. But movement speed reduced from 305 to 300. Ice Shard's damage reduced. Okay. Snowball can no longer pull units out of Black Hole or Chronosphere. That's good, because these were 2 major ultimates that were just so heavily mitigated. Snowball gather radius reduced from 400 to 350. So less saving capabilities with the Snowball. You have to be a decent amount closer. The problem is still going to be the utility of Ice Shards, and its catching mechanism is extremely powerful. It's actually one of the most insane abilities in Dota. So Tusk is still going to be really valuable. What this does, the Ice Shard's damage change, it makes him a little bit worse when it comes to like the 1v1 potential. As him, like, say, a solo offlaner, if you leave the carry alone against the Tusk, he's not going to have the same kind of killing potential he used to against that carry, because he deals 40 less damage just off of his nukes, which is, you know, not insignificant. And then a slight movement speed nerf, or whatever. 5 movement speed, whatever. The utility of the hero is still incredible, and it's going to be very valuable. I can't believe they didn't nerf him a little bit more. Undying. Tombstone zombie damage reduced from 35 to 33. Tombstone bounty increased to 125 at, oh my god, at level 1. It's so easy to kill at level 1 too. Tombstone no longer grants experience. Okay, just nerfs across the board to Undying. I mean, I'm pretty sure Undying was more balanced than Tusk. I really felt like Tusk needed this kind of treatment that Undying received, and Undying needed this kind of treatment. I don't know. You get punished so much more heavily for the level 1 tombstone. Whatever. I'm sure it's not that big of a deal that I'm making of it. Let's see. Aghanim Scepter allows you to cast your ultimate while disabled and reduces cooldown from 50 to 30 to now 30 to 18 seconds. So potentially you can use it twice in a team fight, one of which is going to be when you're disabled. So this is giving you kind of the abandon treatment where you're able to be one of the few heroes that is able to respond to being disabled. This is an okay buff to I mean, it's pretty significant having that. Whether or not the Aghanims is actually going to fit into your item pool is something entirely different. Like, yes, it's like an Aghanim Scepter upgrade for cores is very situational because it's like the Ags upgrade can be great. For example, Luna has a great Aghanims upgrade, but if you ever see Luna, you're not going to be seeing an Aghanim Scepter for a reason. The item build is very specific, and you can't afford to deviate from that too much to go for an item that costs a significant amount, like Aghanim Scepter. So, while the Aghanim Scepter, like, yes, this buff is good. Believe me, there's potential for this to be amazing. Whether or not you're still going to get the Aghanim Scepter, I'm not quite so sure. Again, I see it more as like a situational 3-4 item. Like late game pickup. And Rage is no longer purgeable. Okay. Added an Aghanim Scepter bonus to Vengeful Spirit. Causes you to spawn a Vengeance Illusion when you die. The Vengeance Illusion deals 50% damage, takes 150% damage, and is able to use all of your abilities but not items. The Vengeance Illusion lasts until she revives. So you could potentially get multiple swaps now out of this. I'm wondering, it doesn't say anything about the cooldown. Because the big thing was the Aghanim Scepter for Vengeful Spirit was... the big thing about it was that the cooldown, right? Pretty dramatically. Also, you could like swap creeps, so you could potentially get out yourself or something like that. But this Ag Scepter is like a lot of added utility. But the question is the cooldown completely separate? It seems like it, right? Because it's a separate thing. So in which case, you know, you're then able to immediately swap, say, an ally who's in trouble after you die, or then you're able to swap an enemy that's trying to retreat after it killed you. So the question is, like, the illusion, the cooldown must be separate, right? So you're still going to have a 10-second cooldown. How long does the illusion last? Until she revives. So, oh my god, so you just keep the hero? You're just like, lol, I just keep the utility of the hero? So she just walks around, so you just like have this 10-second swap mechanic that happens? You just walk around with that, even if the Vengeful Spirit's dead? I mean, this is a significant Axe upgrade. The more interesting question for me, obviously it's amazing for supports. So the thing for me is 100% big buff to the support Vengeful Spirit. Is it going to be viable on carry Vengeful Spirit though? The core Vengeful Spirit that VP does, right? So it deals 50% damage. Oh, but it doesn't have items, so obviously it wouldn't get all the damage increase from your items either. So no. No, it would not. Not good on core Vengeful Spirit. Never mind. Ignore anything I just said. Venomancer, Venomous Scale, cooldown reduced 22 to now 18. Okay. There's not a whole lot of potential to use multiple Venomous Scales in a team fight anyway, so lowering the cooldown to 18 seconds is not going to change a whole lot on that hero. Very situational. That change is going to affect anything. Stoneform AoE increased from 340 to 350. Why? I don't know. Visage seems plenty strong right now. if we ever get into a meta where supports, like 4-position supports, are like given a lot more space to farm, like this is just gonna come back like so much stronger than it already is. Base strength increased by 4. Shadow Word duration increased 11 to 12 seconds. Let's see. Lil's gonna be so happy. Shadow Word at maxed out level does 45 damage per second, so an extra 15 damage at level 1, an extra 45 damage at level 4. Shadow Word is already a pretty significant damage over time spell. It does a lot of damage. It does like over 150 damage at level 1. And over 450. Now it does like 550 damage at level 4. Warlock's still a very focused hero when it comes to strategy-wise. That being said, with certain items like Octarine Core, making the Warlock Core a lot more viable late game, because you have golems up more often. I think the hero is in a great place with even just a small buff like that to Shadow Word. It's such an obnoxious ability to lane against. Base damage increased by 3. The Swarm Beetle's base attack time improved from 1.4 to 1.25, 0.95 to 0.8. So they just eat through your armor even faster than they did before. I already thought like Swarm is an exceptionally powerful ability. Weaver doesn't need many buffs to make him viable. Again, it's just a meta change for the hero, so that is going to make it viable. Shackle Shot is now disjointable. Whew, thank God. Shackle Shot speed increased from 1515 to 1650. Shackle Shot angle reduced from 26 degrees to 23 degrees. Thank you. Should never have been more than 25 degrees. That's just absurd. Power Shot speed no longer decreases by a small amount as it goes through units. Alright, whatever. Shackle Shot is just a little bit more difficult to hit, and the disjoint thing was really dumb, to be honest. Winter Wyvern, temporarily removed from Captain's Mode because they're doing something. Cold Embrace cooldown increased 17 to 24, 14 to 15. Arctic Burn slow reduced 25 to 40%, 19 to 40%. The slow was too much at level 1. The damage is still insane at level 1 too, so... But the slow duration means the Winter Wyvern's not going to be getting as many right clicks on you if you have a movement speed advantage over him already, so... It might help, but the harassment is still insane from that hero. Winter's Curse primary and secondary units are now immune to all damage from their enemies. Winter's Curse secondary units now have 50 attack speed bonus, so they attack the primary unit faster. Winter's Curse AoE increased. The cooldown is increased slightly. Winter's Curse duration is significantly longer. Now level 1 is almost as long as level 3 was. And it goes all the way up to 4.75 seconds, which is a very long duration. But it fixed Winter's Curse lingering if the primary target died. So now it's the primary target dies immediately. So the thing was Winter's Curse was kind of utilized as like sort of like a poor man's vacuum in many ways, where the Winter Wyvern did have some like somewhat downfalls when it came to grouping up some heroes but decreasing the amount of damage done to the secondary targets. Now I think the idea behind the Winter's Curse is a lot better, where you're essentially forcing this this brawl, this dual brawl, which was what Winter's Curse is more about than the AoE group up, but that's what it was using it for in 6.84. It was just like, oh, great, AoE disable, and then you would talk about like, oh, sometimes in these situations where Queen of Pain throws her whole entire AoE, it's not killing these secondary units because of the damage reduction. Now you just make it all together, they're immune straight up, which will mean Winter's Curse is a better setup ability for team fights, such as like the Epicenter, the Walk-in Tidehunter Ravage, right? Those abilities that take a little bit more time to actually use, and not just the quick reaction like AoE nukes, go! Right? So it's obviously going to be less effective in one regard, but much more effective in others. I think this makes it a little bit more situational, and I like the idea behind it, because it punishes Winter Wyverns a bit more. If they use their Winter's Curse in the wrong time, and it just completely, before it was like a reduction of damage, now it just makes it completely immune. I think that's the right way to have the game, where you're punished more heavily for Winter Wyvern misusing that ability. But it now potentially just destroys, like, Wisp, Tiny just beats on you now for 3.25 seconds at level 1. 4.75 seconds at level 3. You think a Wisp is ever going to survive through 5 seconds of getting hit in the face by a Tiny? But yeah, you can't just like run in and just like use Winter's Curse, like, oh hey, that one enemy hero, let's initiate on him. Winter's Curse, disable, blow him up. Like that just felt like such a dumb way to use the ability. When it was supposed to be this amazing like AoE group up, where you force the allies to use the enemy's strength against them, right? So I like the idea behind this. It makes the Winter's Curse a lot more of a situational ability and punishes you much more heavily for misusing it. Winter Wyvern was too strong. Witch Doctor, Maledict mana cost reduced from 120 to 105. Maledict's cast range. Okay, more cast range increases for Maledict, making it an actual viable ability. Vampiric Aura can now be toggled to make lifesteal for heroes only. So this, again, stops the potential of the Wraith Kings who want to farm up the lane but don't want to push it into the off lane. You could see they changed that mechanic as well when they were trying to make the safe lanes closer to actually being safe lanes. Safe lane advantage by having the creeps positioned closer to the towers. New items. New consumable item, Fairy Fire for 75 gold. It gives you plus 2 damage. Restores 75 HP. Cooldown 5 seconds. Does it stack? So it's just like a Mango, but it's for HP. And instead of HP regen, you're going to get plus 2 damage. I'm presuming just like a Mango, it does not stack. So you're just going to have a boop, 75 HP to use, just like the Mango. The Mango, in a way, made sense for... Fairy Fire is now just like... They're trying to bring in, I guess, a little bit more interactions of like the clutch saves kind of feeling. I like the idea, but I felt like the Mango was a nice touch. I'm not sure how I feel like an instant HP thing, so... And it doesn't stack, obviously, because that would be retarded if this stacked. There's no way. Dragonlance. Ogre Club and a Quarterstaff. Okay. 10 strength, 10 attack speed, 10 damage, plus 130 attack range. Range heroes only, does not stack. I'm not sure how I feel about increasing attack range. It feels very awkward. I know there's going to be, like, some heroes I can think, like, Vengeful Spirit is probably going to value this. I'm sure this builds into something, right? Or maybe it doesn't. Yeah, it can be disassembled as well, so... Okay. New item, let's see, Energy Booster, Ring of Health, and a Cloak. It seems like they're trying to make these kind of build-up items where you get a lot of value out of the disassemble. That's what this is. This is pure value for a disassemble. I mean, this is not an item that you're going to hold on to late game. It's only a 2k item, but it just gives you a little bit of HP. Maybe makes certain heroes... Like, I could see this like having a lot of value on Vengeful Spirit. Just because the stats, everything you get out of it is what you need, including the attack range. Huskar, it's another hero that could see value from this. You know, it just seems a small build-up item that can be disassembled for other uses, such as, in this case, BKB Butterfly. SF may value this item. Energy Booster, Ring of Health, Cloak, 2300, 250 mana, 8 HP, regeneration, 15% magic resistance, 200 cast range? We're increasing cast range now? What? Why are we doing that? What? Are we just breaking Dota? Is that what's going on right now? 200 cast range? I mean, there's so many heroes that this has got to be, like... Alright, whatever. 8% spell... What? 8% spell damage. Alright. What's going on, guys? Cast range improvements affects targeted spells and distance-related spells such as Venomous Gale. Oh, it affects his... Distance-related spell? What? Does not affect AoE abilities like Poison Nova, but it affects Venomous Gale. Distance-related spells. Huh, what? Alright, I'm not a fan. I don't know. Maybe I'm just, like, old school like that. I've played Dota for a decade now. I don't like the idea of messing with cast ranges and spell damage. I don't even like messing with attack ranges. I don't even like the idea that there are heroes that have more than 600 attack range besides Sniper. I don't even like that idea. But, you know, I'm just kind of like, okay, Dota 2, yeah, it's fine. We don't need to keep those rigid 600 range only sort of deals. But, messing with cast range? I don't know, man. I mean, it's nothing, like... I mean, the 200 cast range, I feel, is more significant than 8% spell damage. This is obviously not insignificant, but... I'm sure there's going to be some... There's going to be some heroes that this is going to be extremely powerful on. Does Pudge get this hero? Does this make the... I mean, distance-related spells, right? So, Pudge Hook? Does that increase the Pudge Hook range? I mean, he already likes the Cloak. He likes the Ring of Health. The Energy Booster is fine by him. He needs more mana. I don't know. Yeah, people saying Bat Rider with Lasso. Yeah, I don't know. Quelling Blade, Ring of Protection, and a Recipe. Quelling Blade, Ring of Protection. Jesus, this is a very cheap item. +2 armor. Bonuses of Quelling Blade. So it gives you keep the Quelling Blade. Lets you target non-player enemy units to remove 40% of their current HP. Non-player enemy units. So no Necronomicon units, just strictly creeps, neutrals, can't target ancients. 14 seconds. Is this going to add some, like, weird jungle meta? I mean, we needed to bring back junglers, yes, but... And like, less stacking meta, a little bit more jungling, but... Is giving an item like this? And it's 40% of the current HP, so you can't even, like, use it to last hit. Seems like best just for jungling. What does this mean? Jungle Lifestealer, jungle... Does Lifestealer get... Yeah. If he open wounds at targets and then just like instantly uses Iron Talon, does that give him the HP? There's going to be a whole bunch of junglers that are opened up because of this item. Especially because you can build it at level 1. Say you build this, you get tangos for yourself. Wait, you can't get tangos for yourself, but you're like given shared tangos or whatever. Or maybe you just fly it out to yourself really early. Jungle meta, here we come, I guess. Abyssal Blade. Bash damage increased from 60 to 120, but the damage bonus decreased from 85 to 25. 85 to 70. Okay, so the proc damage being significantly more, while the consistent damage being less, making this more of an RNG-focused item. I'm okay with that for Abyssal Blade, just because Abyssal Blade is already such a consistent item because of the guaranteed bash. I'm okay with making it maybe a little bit more RNG-focused in one way. Courier purchase cooldown increased from 7 seconds to 2 minutes. Animal Courier cost decreased from 120 to 100. Woo! Support play! Why did it take this long to make this happen, Valve? How many couriers had to die for this change? How many donkeys were condemned to death? Because you couldn't just put a goddamn cooldown on courier purchases! Why did 10k network swings happen in my pubs in seconds? Because you just wouldn't put a goddamn cooldown on the couriers. Alright, let's move on. Think of the donkeys, Valve. Think of the donkeys. Arcane Boots. Movement speed reduced by 5. Total cost reduced by 50. Boots of speed? Okay. So there's going to be Boots of Speed change. Attack Speed Aura now affects buildings. So AC is somewhat better for defending towers as well. Not significant. Unless, like, does this affect wards? Are they not buildings? Is there anything that would, like, hero-wise, that it would affect? Blade Mail cooldown reduced 15 to 13. It's nice. Boots of Speed 450 to 400. Movement speed reduced by 5. Okay. Cost of bottle reduced to 660. Health regen per charge reduced 110 to 90. Mana regen per charge reduced 70 to 60. Our charge now heals over 2.5 seconds instead of 3 seconds. Okay. I'm presuming that's to make up for the loss of amount that it heals to still make it kind of the same rate over time. Added bottle to side shop starts with only 1 charge. Oh god, there's gonna be some sick... Wait, can you sell it? As usual, if you use the item, you cannot sell it for full price. Okay, good thing they had that covered. But I'm sure there's gonna be some sick, like, side shop bottle plays that are gonna happen. You could just tell. But this does open up the offlane position. This doesn't mean as much. There's going to be very few cores that get bottle. I remember the summit we were they were talking about one of the cores that does get bottle because they need some. But there's not too many cores that get bottle. Like Phantom Lancer is one of them. I think Vengeful Spirit is a potential carrier of a bottle as well. Oh, that's right. It was Vengeful Spirit because of the sustain factor of Helm of the Dominator, which is necessary for a Vengeful Spirit. You need something like that gives you sustain. The Ember Spirits. But the safe lane heroes, right? There's going to be less safe lane heroes that are really affected this. There's going to be a lot of off lane heroes that can be affected by this bottle chain. Darkseer, Tusk, Timbersaw, you may start seeing them pick up a bottle just because now there's a guaranteed rune, which already added value to the bottle on offlaners because there's a rune on both sides for you to be able to fill up on. But then just the easiness of, since you're not getting the courier very often anyway, you can just buy a bottle from your side shop and then try and, refill it off of the rune. You may see a lot more of these offlaners who could have gone bottle, but it wasn't really the item they needed. They needed to go for something else. They had soul rings or whatever. You may see them buy this bottle, and maybe just the next thing that puts a little bit more of the edge, where you see, okay, yeah, soul ring on Darkseer is going to be picked up 90% of the time, but you may see that 1 time out of 10 where Darkseer picks up a bottle as well, or something weird like that. I think this is to promote more contesting of the runes in some ways. I think that IceFrog really wants to get the offlaners involved in controlling the runes against the supports, so they have something to do essentially when they're being zoned out of lane. So, okay, I'm being zoned out of the lane at, you know, the 2-minute mark. I can go and contest that rune, and this just gives you more incentive to do so, especially if the bottle is easy access for you and a little cheaper for you. I'm not saying it's gonna change any metas or anything, but it just opens up more possibilities for offlaners especially. The butterfly flutter movement increased from 25 to 35%, making the butterfly tiny stronger, and butterfly duration reduced from 6 to 4 seconds. Okay, so it's going to be used more as an escape mechanism rather than sustained movement speed. So in a way that doesn't necessarily help out the tiny. Mana regeneration increased 170 from 170 over 45 seconds to 190 or 50 seconds. It's still the same mana regen. With the introduction of the Magos, it made Clarities less valuable, but I love Clarities, so any buff to them, I'm all on board. Magic resistance reduced from 20% to 15%. Cloak was way too valuable of an item. For 550 for 20% regen resistance, it made support super strong, alongside all the other buffs that support's got. Crimson Guard, chance from 75% block for 40-20 to now 100% chance to block 32-16. Cooldown reduced 70 to 60 as well. Value for that. Let's see. Critical Strike from 25% for 2.4, now 30% chance for 2.2. Average damage increased from 35 to 36%. Nothing major. Agility bonus increased for regular diffusal blades, and intelligence increase for both. Drums of Endurance. Endurance bonus movement speed increased from 10 to 13%. Endurance is the active ability, of course. Okay, so you'll see a little bit more effect out of those drums charges being used. Ethereal Blade mana cost reduced. There shouldn't really be much of a mana cost on Ethereal Blade anyway. Opens up for some heroes that have limited mana pools. Still not going to be... It's going to be very situational items unless Morphling really comes back. And even then. Flying Courier, yay! 200. It only takes you 300 gold to make a Flying Courier. Woo! Base magic resistance reduced from 20% to 15%. Again, Glimmer Cape was one of the big buffs that support saw, so reflecting the deal. HP regeneration from 4% to 4.75%. They're really trying to buff. They don't want to give Hard Trask too much of an HP increase, so they're trying to make it the value come out of the HP regeneration, so that you can be out of a fight and then return back to it so much faster. Because most of the time when you look at Hard Trask, it's not very often picked up because there's too many other value items. You have the Scotty is one of the biggest one, where it's like, why would I go a Heart when I could go a Scotty instead on Phantom Lancer, for example. I can get the slow, and I can still get a significant HP increase. Dominate now sets the Dominated Creep's base movement speed to 350. So this makes that Dominated Creep... I'm seeing too much value in the Helma Dominator lately, though. Like, the fact you could disassemble and just kill the creep and just scout out. The things that Arteezy does with the Helma Dominator is actually incredibly good, so... What the fuck is this? The fuck meme shit is this? Hello? Was BTS right? Is IceFrog just do it for the memes, guys? Is that why he made Dota? Is that why he made Dota 2? He just does it for the memes? Alright, we'll get to that in a second. Hood of Defiance now has an active ability. Alright, that's good. Creates a spell shield on your hero that absorbs up to 325 magic damage. Hood of Defiance has long been like just one of those garbage items that you're like, I have to build this expensive Hood of Defiance in order to get that pipe, which, again, pipe isn't that valuable, or wasn't that valuable. So this is nice. But yeah, what the fuck is this? Iron Branch can now be used by targeting the ground, planting a happy little tree that lasts 20 seconds. 200 cast range. You know how many juke spots there are that are blocked out by a single unit? You know how many juke spots there are? If this happens instantly, and it lasts for 20 seconds... I mean, it does offer more, like, counterplay scenarios. Right? Because of, with the whole, whatever the fairy fire, like the instant 75 HP, now you can instantly throw down a tree. Does Timbersaw, like, give himself escape trees now? Does Timbersaw bring, like, branches wherever he brings a couple of branches wherever he goes, and he just sets up, like, you know, like, escape trees? You know, does mid-Timbersaw now able to go Timber Chain because he has a reliable tree sitting by the tower? You know, off-lane Timbersaw, does he have, you know, that gap? There's this, like, desert area for a Timbersaw, a desert area where the river's at, where, on both sides, you have the river on one side, and then you have this cliff area where there's no trees. You know, for Timbersaw, it's kind of a desert because you have nothing to hook to. So you have these trees, and then you have your tower trees, you know, that you're trying to get back to your tier 1 tower. That when you push forward into the lane, you potentially get caught. Because it's this desert area, one timber chain does not ensure a successful escape. You've got to go this awkward side timber chain just to get distance, and then walk back to the tier 1 tower. If you have a branch, and you're just like, I'll just throw a branch in this desert area for Timbersaw, and when he pushes forward, he has now a much more reliable and efficient tree to be able to escape. Does Timber just bring that around with him, you know? It's only 20 seconds, so no. That's obviously not what you do, but... I don't know, there's just so many... Whatever, Ice Frog. Obviously, there's no real plays to be had here with the Timbersaw, most likely. The biggest thing is going to be using this for juking areas in the trees. Pierce improved 20% to deal 40 damage, now 25% to deal 85 damage. Damage bonus reduced from 21 to 10. Okay. RNG, hello. Lincoln Sphere, cooldown reduced, 16-13, damage bonus increased. Lincoln Sphere, I mean, it's seen a lot of value lately, and it's competing with Lotus Orb in some ways, but at the same time, because you're able to pass it over to allies so efficiently, Lincoln Sphere has been looked at as pretty valuable, and with a cooldown reduction to 13 seconds, you can easily get 2 Lincoln Sphere usage. Oh, yeah, okay. I got it now. So you lay down the tree and you whirling death? Whatever. Whatever. Dota 2, what a weird game. Mantle of Intelligence has been removed from the side shop. Rest in peace. MKB. Mini bash proc damage increased, just like the Javelin. They're trying to make this more RNG for the MKB. Damage overall reduced. Too bad they don't give you like an average damage change in how this works. Because I'm not going to do the math. Necronomicon recipe cost reduced 1250 to 1200. Necronomicon attack range increased. Yeah, the archer range is really weird. The fact that it's like 350. So now it's up to 450. Nothing major. Still a great item. Situational, obviously, as it should be. Observer and Sentry Rewards now have an AoE indicator before placing. Experience bounty for counter warding. I mean, 100 experience for an Observer ward is... I mean, that's a bounty rate. So, the biggest time that you'll see this is that when supports are counter warding at the the first set of wards that are laid down, if you get an effective counter ward, it's actually much more beneficial than it was before, and it has been growing in benefit. Now affects the replenish time of charged abilities. Okay, so now abilities that have charges come back faster too. Orb of Venom is no longer unique. Phase boots. Phase active no longer cancels when casting. It's good. I felt like that was a weird mechanic that made things unnecessarily complicated, I think. Movement speed reduced by 5 and total cost reduced by 50. Yeah. Cripple cooldown increased 10 to 12. Now grants units that attack the target 40% accuracy. So finally they gave us an item, not the item I was expecting, but they finally give us an item that is not MKB, that will help deal with the stupid Huskar, the stupid Huskar Solar Crests and Heaven's Halberds, or the Phantom Assassin, rest in pieces. There's now a 3k item that can potentially counter you in some ways. I'd like to see how the RNG mixes out with a 50% miss chance and then the 40% chance not to miss. Where they really comes in, but we'll see. Maim no longer pierces spell immunity. That's good. S and Y has been too strong for quite some time, and this is one way to deal with it, not allowing it to go through BKB. Duration for Satanic 4 to 4.5. Cooldown reduced. Scythe of Ice has actually been a little bit out of the meta, despite its prevalence at one point in time, so this will help. Though it's the fact that the break mechanic was turned into a thing, and Scythe of Ice became a lot less powerful. But this will help it make it a bit better. Silver Edge debuff is no longer dispellable. That's good. Silver Edge had a lack for the cost. For the cost, it was too easily dispelled. Strength bonus, more RNG focused. Smoke, reduce costs, more money for supports. Boosted tangos now last for double the duration instead of providing double the healing rate. So when you kill a ward or something with a tango, using tango on an iron branch trees provides double healing duration. At 125, I am so terrible. 125 divided by 4. 31.25. And you're saying you can use your 25, your 50 gold for a branch to be able to double the duration. It's not completely efficient, but now you can actually use those branches for something. This whole branch scenario is really weird, where you're able to block off certain things, and now you can use it double your regen. It's just now it's no longer you just throw away your iron branches, but you have something to do with it. Wow. Tranquil Boots. Okay. Vanguard chance, 75% chance block. 100% block, 32 and 16. I think Vanguard and Crimson Guard had a hard time with this whole RNG, and they just kind of kept upping it, and now making it 100% block. Maybe makes it more effective of an item. Veil of Discord now requires 2 Bro of the Magi instead of a 900 recipe. That's good. Vitality booster added to the side shop. Ultimate orb removed from the side shop. Yasha. Movement speed reduced from 10% to 18%, 8%. Again, S and Y was just too strong. Additional changes, I don't really give a shit. So yeah, that's the end of the patch analysis. Good stuff, good stuff, good stuff. All around, The terrain changes are going to be one of the big things that can really change the meta. But as far as I see this brings junglers back into the fold, giving them some items. Supports are still maintain their current status, which is they're a lot more critical than they were before, except for the fact that it lessens maybe a little bit of value on Glimmercape, but it's still incredibly powerful. It's an amazing item. Supports have so much late game play potential, and now they have the ability to get there even better because of the fact they have to spend less on wards. They get more out of countering wards. They don't have to spend as much on couriers, stuff like that. So, supports being their potential offlaners. The offlane potential may be opened up a little bit by these weird interactions, by like the trees, and your ability to be able to juke through there. The bottle on the side shop may open up some things for certain offlaners. And contesting the runes, especially with that arcane rune, which seems pretty insane. That could be... I mean, I think there's more potential, like there's more pressure to maintain rune control because of this. So, as far as carries, there are going to be certain heroes that were definitely winners of this. Bat Rider, I think, was definitely one of them. A Silencer was another, from what I recall. Shannon Enchantress, for sure. Obviously, the heroes with new abilities, like, you can't really call them winners. Like, Faceless Void, what do you even say to that? Big losers, Huskar, probably. Let's see, who else? Who else was a really big winner? I think Nature's Prophet was actually a pretty decent winner, despite the fact that it's like not a major change by any means. I think that it's just like, just makes him that much more viable in the offlane. Puck obviously was a pretty big winner. So, yeah, I'm not gonna talk about the terrain changes, guys. It's just hard for me to be able to like really really do anything with that. Like, even looking at a map, I'm not really gonna be. I'm not gonna. Looking at a map isn't gonna change much for me. Looking at inside the test client would be better, but it's gonna just take some run-throughs in the game to really figure that out. So yeah, that's it. Thanks for watching.